board also. Okay. Welcome everyone. We are doing power tools supporting people where they are today. I am Ashley Lickley and joined by my wonderful coworker, Julie Petty. And we are with Partners for Inclusive Communities and work on the Safety and Sexual Violence Prevention Project and the Assisting Crime Victims with Disabilities Project with Partners for Inclusive Communities. Just some quick housekeeping items. We are recording, and we also ask that you stay muted unless we are asking for questions or comments, so that way everyone can hear the presentation. You can also use the chat feature. If you would like to say anything, you can also raise your hand. That's all for the housekeeping. If you have any questions or concerns about Zoom or anything like that, you can reach out to Doug. And then also if you need, if you would like the subtitles on your control panel, you should have a CC button that you can access those. You can also access those using a TypeWell link that I will put in the chat for you, maybe. And then let's see, copy, paste. Oh, I cannot do it. Amy, is it possible for you to put that in the chat again? It's not letting me put it in the chat. Okay, so that is that all on housekeeping, and now we will get started. Thank you, Amy.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Ashley. Today we will discuss the history of oppression of people with disabilities, the types of power, and then we'll talk about rights and responsibilities, and then examples. And Ashley said we are going to have some discussion throughout the presentation. So don't be afraid to speak up. Next. So historically, people with disabilities have been oppressed, and they have been taught to comply. That means they're taught, we are taught to say yes, and we're not able to say no to people who may be supporting us or caring for us. So, like authority figures. So the first question we have for everybody is, why would it be a problem for people with disabilities that we're not allowed to say no?
If you have an answer, you can put it in the chat or raise your hand.
Not everybody at once. Sorry. So
quiet
sorry, Ash. So I think a problem for people with disabilities because it puts us at a higher risk to be abused or taken advantage of. Oh, we have an answer, Ashley.
It says because all people have their own desires and wants. Yes.
That's true. And
they are not able to express themselves freely like all Americans do.
That's a good one too. I agree. And what year is this? I think it's 2021.
That it is hard to believe, isn't it?
And
All people in our country have the same rights. Our history is not evidence of this. Absolutely.
that is true.
And Julie, kind of going off what you were saying about being at a higher risk, I also think that not being taught to say no is difficult and problematic for consent conversations, because if you're not able to say no, then you're not able to, you're not really in control of your consent if you're not able to say no.
Yeah, and what you mean by consent is people being able to say, yes, I want to do that, right?
Yes, or no, I do not want to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
If you ask me to go see a scary movie, I will say no, thank you.
And that is your right.
I don't like scary movies. What was the other comment, Ash?
Says people are constantly threatened to be institutionalized if they don't comply. Yes, that's a good point.
That is so true. Thank you.
Yeah.
We still have many institutions where we live, and I do not feel that they are healthy for people with disabilities. Okay, Ash, get on the next. Turn it over to you.
All right. So now we're going to look at some perspectives. So those of us who say we serve have tremendous power over those within our care. And so if you are a support staff or provide any sort of services, think about what you do on a daily basis with those you support. Power is one of the first important issues that we need to consider when we are supporting anyone. We need to consider this every day and in almost every interaction that we have with someone who has a disability. Those of us who are doing this work are often the most powerful people in the lives of those we support, but often we are powerless in the organizations that we work for. So we often tend to be at the very bottom of our organizational hierarchy, and that kind of shapes our perspective of being powerless at the bottom of that hierarchy. And so in our minds, a lot of times we think that we are powerless, and we forget to think about all of the other interactions that we have outside of our workplace where we do have power. And so it's important, it's within this mindset or belief that we can unknowingly hurt the people we support without meaning to, and without intending to. We can do things that hurt the dignity and self-esteem of people with disabilities. And so that means awareness of our power is really important, because it can help reduce the likelihood that we may misuse it, whether on purpose or by accident. It's important to stop and consider the dynamics of who you are and who you are supporting. This could look like stopping to take a breath and thinking to yourself, in this moment right now, what are the power dynamics? And it is our responsibility as professionals for what we do, what we say, and for who we are when we are supporting people with disabilities.
So now we're gonna talk about types of power. There is power over, and then there is power with, and there is power within. Go ahead, please. So power over is the most common recognized form of power. Power over has many negative associations for people, such as, like I was talking about, oppression, force. People may be forced to do something, coercion, discrimination, which if you have a disability, you might experience discrimination on a daily basis, like I do. Corruption and also abuse. So power over is seen as a win-lose kind of relationship. Having power over involves taking it away from someone else and then using it to dominate and prevent others from gaining it. So I'm gonna start with the example, and then I'm gonna ask you all if you have any examples. So one time I was at a statewide conference and a support staff had an individual with cerebral palsy by the wrist and was dragging them to walk over somewhere. And then they said, sit right. And then they said, sit right there. So that was a great example of having power over. And the person wasn't a child. People should be able to sit and decide where they want to sit, especially at a disability conference. It made me so angry. So, did anybody else have examples of power over people?
Using the phrase, because I said so is one. Oh, we have one. We have someone with their hand raised. Yeah, go ahead and unmute and tell us what you think.
One other example would be, like, per se, making their choices for them if they go to the grocery store.
Yep.
Maybe they want a certain brand and someone is picking out, whoever's taking care of them is picking out a brand saying, oh, this is what you need. But what if they want that? That's not fair to them. They should be able to choose what they want.
That happens a lot, Morgan. I see that a lot. Yeah. Doug?
When it's safe to do so, we encourage our self-advocates once a quarter to, usually we do it like the 5th Tuesday, to gather at a local restaurant and eat. And so we were at one of the chain restaurants, and I thought it was nice. And their staff, because most of them lived in a group home for this particular group, they were all able to order off the menu themselves. And I thought that was great. And then at the very end, that kind of turned to kind of being annoyed because rather than assisting them to get up and go to the register and pay for their own meal, most of them had their own money, but the staff went around and collected everybody's check and everybody's cash and went up to the register and paid and came back. And I pulled them aside and said, why did you do that? And they said, oh, well, because it was much more convenient. And I wasn't sure if they would be able to do that on their own anyway. What? So they didn't even give the opportunity. So on one hand, they were giving them the independence to order for themselves and they had their own money with them, but they didn't think they could go to the register with them and help them pay for their own meal. So I was not very happy. I didn't say anything more, but I just asked them casually why they did that.
Yeah. it was probably easier for staff. And I don't care if it's harder to support people. You need to support people to be their own person. Doug, the same thing happened at the last National Self-Advocacy Conference when they checked people in at the register. They get the whole group. They want the individuals to tell their name and get their name tagged. And this is a self-advocacy conference. You know, it is so frustrating. Actually, do we have comments?
Yes,
in the
we do.
chat?
We have one more that says, forcing the choice of the person's providers, such as waiver, medical, or mental health. Yeah.
Okay. Should we move on, Ashley, or do you have an example? Power over.
We can move on. My example was using the like because I said so or like other dismissive phrases.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see what else. Okay. So we have this example too for us to think about. So I'll read this aloud and then we can think about this together. A young man and woman who lived in a group home fell in love with one another. Their relationship grew and they announced their love and said that they wanted to get married. The staff member at the group home countered their news by informing them that the agency had a policy that essentially stated that people with disabilities who receive services cannot ever be sexual. The couple was also informed that they would lose their home and their job for continuing their relationship. So in this situation, what did this couple learn? You can write it in the chat or raise your hand. Okay, they are able to express themselves freely. Should that say are not? There we go. They are not able to express themselves freely. Discrimination, that they were treated differently than non-disabled adults. Yeah. That they have no rights, that their lives would be upended if they continued their relationship. They were treated as if their love for one another is different from others, and they were threatened to comply. Yeah. Oh, this one's good. That they do not have control over their own bodies.
Yeah. You gotta be good. That is all correct.
Yeah. And going off of that bodies one, that they cannot be sexual, and that's also like a myth that Julie and I talk about a lot, is the myth that people with disabilities are not sexual or have sexuality. Right, Julie?
That is the myth. That's not true. I gave birth to two boys. They also, I feel, they also learned that they weren't allowed to be in love. They couldn't be in love. So everybody deserves to be in love. And so every time we share this actually happened. This is actually a true story. So every time we share this, I ask organizations, if you have a group home, please look at your policies and see what your policies are. Are they taking away the rights of people? So anyway, that's all I had, Ashley.
Yeah, that's a good point, Julie. What purpose are policies like that serving, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other question for us to consider is, what issues do you see in this scenario? And I think Julie brought up a good point of, clearly they have some policy issues in this group home. Does anyone else see any other issues in this scenario?
Well, living. Oh, there we go.
Violation of
Love.
human rights by the provider. Okay.
Go ahead, Morgan. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, they're not, the freedom to love freely.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Huge overreach of the home. They are not teaching the members to be independent, and the list goes on. Yeah. Healthy relationships should be promoted. Yeah, absolutely.
And we do a training on healthy relationships. I mean, Sharice and
Yeah, I feel like Sharice just plugged it because that was her comment of healthy relations should be promoted. Okay. All right, let's move on. Okay, that's you, Julie.
Oh, so power over can even be in the language that we use. And I have heard it. My coworkers have heard it when we go to organizations. We heard one time they were loading the van, and the driver said, "Let's have the wheelchair people first. Come on, wheelchair people." That language is degrading and discriminating. And then some adults wear personal pads that a lot of people call them a diaper. Well, they're not a baby, they're an adult, and we need to be respectful. And Ashley said power over earlier because I said so. And then we were at one organization who was having lunch, and some people need assistance to eat. And I heard someone say, I've fed someone. I don't even know why you would have to say that. I mean, just be supportive, you know?
So Julie, how would you restate that in a supportive way?
I supported someone to eat lunch, I guess.
Yeah.
I assisted someone. You know, when I was little, I used to have to have help eating. So,
And then,
that's how I would say it. But what about you, Ashley?
yeah, I would say I assisted someone with lunch.
Yeah.
Or whatever meal it is, snack. My favorite time of the day, snack time. Let's do wheelchair people. Julie, you told us what not to say. Tell us what we should say instead.
Well, everyone has a name, so I think we should just call them by their name, you know?
Yeah.
So,
or like, what about wheelchair users?
That would be okay, but I would have to defer to Sharice on that one.
Yeah.
Sharice, you got any comment?
I kind of have a love-hate relationship with wheelchair users. And when I hear things like I'll hear people say, well, let me put your wheelchair on. I'm like, are you expecting me to get out the wheelchair so that you could put the wheelchair on, or you want to put me on too? So, people are always asking, what do I call you? And I'm I agree with Julie, just call me by my name, And yes, I use a wheelchair, but I am an identity first person. So I say I'm in a wheelchair, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ashley. Thank you, Sharice.
Yes, thank you, Sharice. That was awesome. I was hoping for your input there. Another thing I think Sharice brought up that was such a good point too is like, just ask a person like what they need, what supports they need with everything, transportation, all of it. So instead of telling someone what you're going to do to help them, ask them what kind of help they need.
So what have other people heard statements that have power over people?
And we had a comment already for that one. It says, if getting married cut your disability money.
Is that a question, Ashley?
Oh, I don't know. I thought it was a comment about power. There's not a question mark, so I don't know if it is a question.
Well, it does, which is not fair either. I don't agree with that. And I know on the national level, we've been trying to change that policy, because when I got married, I chose to give up my SSI and my Medicaid. And I have a couple other friends who had to do the same thing, but it was their choice. So that's kind of the policy of the law having power over us,
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Any other statements you've heard? I was talking to my friend Emily the other day. Oh, go ahead, Ashley, there's a comment.
Oh, in a field trip scenario, a power over situation would be that everyone has to sit in assigned seating when they should be able to choose.
Exactly, that.
Another one. This one says, John is watching both of them instead of John is working with both of them. Or will you watch him while I go to the restroom instead of, hey, will you hang out with him while I go to the restroom? Yeah.
Great
language. Yeah.
Great example. Great example.
I thought of something, if y'all don't mind.
Go ahead.
Well, I used to work at a summer camp, and I have a disability, and I am guilty of some of this language too. We used to say, now this was 30 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, but we used to say things like, it's time to feed. And it sounds like, knowing what I know now, it sounds like we're talking about a herd of animals.
Yeah.
Like we would have certain people that we would have to support and help them with eating. And instead of saying, can we support you or whatever, or, let's eat or whatever, and making it like that, we would say, okay, it's time to feed so-and-so.
That's a good example, Sherry. Just not just having, not giving people choices, is just having power over them. So actually, I think we need to move on because I don't want to run out of time. So
Yeah. Oh, we have one more comment. It says, I try to say assist as much as I can. Assist with eating instead of feeding. Yeah.
that's good. That
So thinking about that, we think of ourselves as servants. We serve or assist people with disabilities. So do we use the word serve like a waiter would use the word? A waiter knows his job, his obligation, and for whom he works. So if we think about that, do we think about people with disabilities as our employers? Maybe we should. And if we do, if we think about people with disabilities as our employers, what changes? How would the dynamics change if we looked at it that way? Any comments on that?
Had a very wise boss for years that always reminded us, and unfortunately currently people have lost this, but he always reminded us that we were working for the people that we provided services for. Without them, we would not have a job. And that was the bottom line, is we're working for them. Yes, their funding stream comes from the government, but bottom line, we are there for them, to support them in everything that they need. And I think that just gets lost, period. I think sometimes staff gets caught up in, especially now during the pandemic when things are so rough and they're short of staff and people are overworked and working overtime. I think they lose track of why they're there.
Yes.
thank you for sharing that. That is right. Now, I'm sorry, Ashley, the example that Doug gave earlier, I think it's just easier for staff to do stuff instead of being supported.
It's like being a parent, right? It's easier to do it for the kids instead of them making a mess in the kitchen. Then they end up not knowing how to do anything because we did it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Doug?
There's a guy who does different teachings named Tom Pomerantz, and he goes around to different group homes, and he tells a story where he went to a group home one time and saw somebody walking down the hall with a basket of clothes and was like, they let employees do their laundry here? And so he stopped the lady and said, what, are you doing your laundry? No, this is Mary's. Well, why are you doing, what's going on? Why are you washing Mary's clothes? You're not in a hotel. Well, she uses a wheelchair and has some other disabilities. Well, can she carry the basket on her lap? Yes. Well, why don't you have Mary carry the clothes down to the washer, and then you can have her tell you what to do, and you can assist her in washing her own clothes. And the lady kind of looked at him like, oh, I never thought of that. So sometimes it's just simply not a mindset that they may not have occurred to them, that they're supposed to be supporting the people, as you're talking about, not serving them like they're in a hotel. So you ask them what they want to eat rather than this is what we're eating. So, but again, it may be one of the comments he made was you can't always just talk to the frontline people because they also have supervisors who also have people up the line, and they may just simply be carrying out what they were told to do.
Yep.
So it's a multi-level thing.
Yeah, that's what Ashley was talking about earlier, right? Ashley, the hierarchy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And also what you were talking about with even like the policies too. It goes way up.
Yep.
Okay, we have a comment. It says, many things would change, such as attitude and power trips. People with disabilities are being told what to do instead of being taught about a situation and allowed to make their own decision. Yeah, I think that goes exactly what Doug was saying in that example too. Instead of being taught that they can do their own laundry, and allowed to make those decisions. Yeah, or any decision. Yeah,
I
Doug.
think as you've alluded to earlier, since people with disabilities aren't regarded as being on the same level as everyone, well, we want to protect them. It might just be not be easier for them. It might be, yeah, but if I do it, they won't spill the laundry detergent all over the floor. Okay, I can tell you, I'm quite capable of spilling the laundry detergent all over the floor, whether I have a but people just have this assumption that as long as you have this label as a person with a disability, that even common things like, here, let me pour the milk for you. I'm sure you're quite capable. I've spilled milk without a disability very easily. But so I think it's a perception, as you all have alluded to a lot too.
Yeah.
And I think it's all about, they don't want people with disabilities to fail. And it's like, I fail spectacularly on any given day. I mean, just getting dressed can sometimes be a chore. I'm gonna be honest with you. But also people with disabilities often will get, in being compliant, they'll get used to people doing things for them and not have any idea of what they're capable of, or they might be capable of something. And we don't have time, but I have a story maybe next time about that. But we get so used to just doing that we don't even ask people with disabilities.
Yeah. Sarah, do you have a comment?
People in this world don't think that people with disabilities can learn anything.
Yeah. Doug, did you have another comment before we move on?
I'm good. I've put mine in, and this is
Okay.
a great discussion.
So it's all about perspectives, and I'm gonna tell you how we can change them in a minute. Go ahead, Ashley.
Okay. And we have one more comment, so I'll read that before we keep going. It says, when I worked as an implementer, this was something that I stated regularly. They are considered clients. Being a client means that they hired you. I would tell people to look at your client as your boss. A client can fire you, and I feel that sometimes their providers failed to realize that too.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. So it is a myth to think that we outgrow the temptation to misuse power. So we need to continually evaluate our relationship with power so we don't misuse that power, and stay open to the fact that even with the best intentions, you make mistakes. Like the language that we use and the perceptions that we have, even if they are subconscious and you're not trying to, sometimes you can have power over people without meaning to. So we make a lot of mistakes. Our tones can be just as belittling as the words that we're using. Be mindful when you speak. Authority is another form of power over. So even just the tone of your voice or how you say something to someone can present power over. So power with is shared power. It grows out of collaboration and relationships. Julie and I have developed a very good shared power with relationship. We have mutual support and collaboration, and we work together with our multiple individual ideas and our talents and our knowledge. And power with is built on respect and empowerment, and an organization can adopt power with as a value that they work towards. Julie, do you have anything to add on that one?
We have a wonderful organization in Arkansas that has power with. They have a day program, and the people who go there, they don't have to ask when they want to go to the bathroom. they don't have to ask when they want to get a drink of water. They just let the support staff know, hey, I'm going to the restroom. I'll be back. So that is an example of what organizations can do.
Yeah, and that shows how not only like respect, but also empowerment, that you can just come and go freely without having to ask or get permission or anything like that, or go as a group even.
Right.
Yeah, okay, let's keep moving. All right, that's you, Julie.
Okay, so the people with disabilities, we need to have power within. Not only power with other people, but we need to have power within, because we need to have a sense of self-worth and self-knowledge and the capacity to imagine and have hope. I have to tell you, I did not get my power within till I was 26 years old, maybe. Me and Sharice went through a training called Reaching My Own Greatness, developed by People First of Washington State. And one of the activities we had to do is we had to look in the mirror and tell ourselves, what do you like about yourself? And when I looked in the mirror, all I saw was my disability. It was really hard. But over time, I was able to look in the mirror and say how awesome I am. So, go ahead, Ashley. So now I want you to hear from my good friend Cindy. When you watch Cindy's story, think about the different types of power that you see throughout her life. You might see an example of all of them. So, and this is me and Cindy. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Ashley.
Cindy's story, growing up in an institution.
Can you hear it, Doug?
My name is Cindy. I'm the executive director of People First of Wisconsin. People First is a statewide advocacy group. We advocate for the people with and without disabilities. And we do not believe people should be isolated or in institutions or places like that and have a meaningful life.
When Cindy was only a few years old, she was placed into a state institution where she lived until she was 26 years old.
No choices. They told you what you're gonna wear, these awful dresses. That's why I don't wear dresses now. And then they had these awful shoes, black and white. They were black and white. They called them saddle shoes. And they came back on, I've seen them on the market. I like to take a pair now and burn them. I'm seriously. Their food was awful. We had no choices of what we could eat. For a long time, I didn't eat oatmeal every single day. The choices were for breakfast: oatmeal, cream of wheat, oatmeal, cream of wheat, powdered in eggs. It was a horrible place. There was abuse, slapping, and then I was sexually assaulted there twice. I didn't feel safe, but I didn't feel that I could leave either. All I knew.
When Cindy was 26, she left the institution with the help of her guardian. At first, she lived in group homes.
I had no idea what to do in a group home. This person said, you need to set an alarm clock. I didn't know how, but I learned how to set an alarm clock. and stuff like that. You need a lot of support when you're coming out of an institution. First of all the baggage goes with you and all the trauma goes with you.
After several years in group homes, Cindy moved into an apartment in the community.
I'm living a normal life. I go when I want, come when I want. I even can do my own grocery shopping. I make the decision of what comes in my apartment, what goes out. I pay all my bills on time and my rent, and I can eat what I like. I don't have to eat oatmeal if I don't want to, or cream of wheat. Oh, different world. And people tell me all the time, whatever happened to you in the past, you didn't deserve any of that, but I just make myself a stronger person. I'm very well connected to my neighborhood. I'm very connected to my church. And that's what counts to me. I feel loved. When I was little, I didn't feel loved. When I was a teenager, I absolutely didn't feel loved. Now as an adult, I feel loved. I feel cared for, and I feel that I'm listened to.
The National Resource Center for Reaching Victims.
Okay, so next slide. So, because of the time, what type of power did you see Cindy had? Actually, I should go ahead and say she had power over her when she lived in the institution, and then she had power with her guardian who helped her get out of the institution, and now she has power within because of self-advocacy. Self-advocacy is what gave me power within. Nobody can empower you. You have to do it for yourself. And you have to learn to believe in yourself. And it's not easy. I still doubt myself. It takes time to believe in yourself. So you all know about self-advocacy. It's about making our own choices, having control over our lives, and with the right support and allies. So having power within and having power with is where you want to be, because I have power with Ashley. I have power with Cherise. They help me. We all need help and we all need support, if you're disabled or non-disabled. Okay, I'm getting on my soapbox. Okay, go ahead, Ashley. Do you think we had time, Ashley? Go ahead.
I can attach this. Doug actually has this a video link. So if you want to share it with the participants, Doug, we'll skip this for now.
Okay, I mean, if you want to, I don't know how much more you have. I've got 10 till if you want to play
Go
it.
ahead and play it, Ashley.
Okay.
It's only 3 minutes.
Self-advocacy means to speak up.
Speaking up for your rights, no matter what the issue or the concern is.
To speak for oneself and speak for others.
I have my own voice. I speak up for myself.
Standing up for your rights and not relying on staff or your support staff to make decisions for you.
The ability to be independent, live your life to its fullest extent.
We took issues like will work, will pay.
Be persistent in what you want.
When you got control of your life, of your everyday affairs.
Means giving the ability to have choices in my life.
It's not just about information sharing, it's about being in the community.
I worked really hard in the community because of my unique disability to get the word out that people like us should be in the community.
Speaking up for yourself, but also taking responsibility for your things.
Being able to know what you want and then being able to go for it and having somebody else that believes in it, that's able to help you.
I'm gonna fight for those that are like me, or it don't matter, it's just, I just don't like people taking advantage of.
They want to get the word out that they want something out of life.
As much as everybody tries to help people with various kinds of disabilities, we're the ones who really know what we need.
For years, the voices of people with intellectual disability were never heard. Decisions were made for them.
If it doesn't come from us, it comes from people who don't have an intellectual disability and they don't actually have the experience to talk about it.
The professionally can listen to us more because they don't know as well as we do what we want and need.
Other people will decide what you will do. If you are not at the table, you don't know what those people are gonna decide.
A part of being a self-advocate is to get out there and start networking.
And if you don't know how to do that, you should go and ask a self-advocate person that knows how to do it, and they'll help you.
There's tons of barriers out there, but attitudinal barriers are the biggest, I think.
The biggest thing is being included in the community with society and its inclusion within college, school.
We came out here to learn from y'all anyway, and that's what we want people to understand. Well, we need help and all that from y'all. That's what we want.
I like to be out, helping people, and to teach people.
I learned to speak up and not be ashamed of who I am.
Just like the civil rights movement before us, we try to do things to help people speak out for what they want and do what they believe in.
We just wanted to let everybody know just because you have a disability doesn't mean you're less than, or you don't know, or you're not committed to something.
We need a voice. We need to get people to listen.
It's really important that we speak up and tell people what is wrong in this world, and so that we can make it better and we can make a change.
Yeah. So it is so important to have a voice and to have support people who will help us make our own choices, because it's not easy at first. It takes a lot of practice, and support people and allies can help us get the information to make an informed choice. You are in charge of your body. If something doesn't feel right to you, then it's not right to you. Who is allowed to touch you without your consent, like we were talking about earlier? No one. One time somebody came up and gave me a hug, and I didn't even know who they were. I don't understand why people want to give people with disability the hug. Well, I don't understand. Some people see it as startling children. So go ahead, Ashley. So, like I was saying earlier, power within and power with is what we need to strive for. This is a win-win attitude. Do you guys, do you all have this in your work?
I want to put Sarah Brown on the spot for a minute, because she recently did some self-advocacy work for herself, and she wanted to reduce her staffing. And Sarah, can you talk about that for a minute? Sorry.
What do you mean? What are you talking about, Dee Dee?
Talking about you getting rid of your night staff.
Oh, yeah, I advocate for not having night staff. I was 24 hours having staff when I moved in 8 years ago in my own apartment. So I had 24 hours staffing. And recently I decided not to have 24-hour staff. It started off not having staff after 9 o'clock. And then once I got comfortable with not having staff after 9 o'clock, then I decided not to have staff after 9 o'clock. So I like it. I enjoyed it. I'm more comfortable not having staff after 9 o'clock. So I think I needed that alone time. So
That's awesome.
And she had some opposition, but she stuck tight to how she felt and gave them all good reasons why she didn't need anybody from 9 at night to 8 in the morning. And in the end, Sarah got what she needed. So
Yay.
yeah.
Yep.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Let's see, anybody else before we move on? Okay, Ashley, I guess we'll move on.
Do you want to do this or skip this?
Doug, can we go?
You good? We got 3 minutes. Keep going.
Okay, so
we still have like 9 slides.
I know, gosh. Go ahead. Actually, you or me? You?
You. It's you.
Oh, it's me. Okay. What would you do if you went out to lunch and the waiter looked at you and asked you what the person with the disability wants to order? This has happened to me many, many times, and it really made me mad.
I've said in the past something like, "Oh, I don't know, Sarah. What would you like?" And then the waiter kind of gets that look like, "Oh, you know." But they usually get it, I think.
Yeah, they don't think that I can order, but I do.
Yeah.
So.
Well, right. You're just in a wheelchair, so I mean, you know.
Yeah. If I don't know what something is, then I kind of look at Dee Dee like, "What is this?"
Yeah. Yeah. Like did he really say that?
Yeah.
So what does it say in the chat, Ashley?
We have one that says, tell them to ask the person, and another one that says, I would tell them that I do not speak for them, only support, and he or she has their own voice and can freely express what they would like to order.
Awesome. One time one of my allies, they asked her what I wanted to eat, and all she did is stare at the menu. She didn't say anything. So then I told them what I wanted to eat. So what about if the waiter and the support person to check? What would you do?
I got a question. If you're talking, Melissa, you're muted. And Lewis has a question.
Go ahead, Louis.
Okay. If you go to a restaurant and they ask you that menu, some people get confused what kind they want to eat, the food.
Yeah. So you might need support to go over the menu. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. It's okay. I think it's okay to ask the waiter for support. So, is that helpful, Lewis?
Yes.
Okay. Did Melissa have a comment?
She did, but she was muted, so I'm not sure what happened to her.
So one time I went out to dinner with my colleague who is non-disabled, and I was gonna get the check, and because she was only having a cup of soup, and I was having a full entree. Anyway, I ordered a salad with my entree, and the waitress came back and whispered in my colleague's ear, I forgot her salad, so I'm not gonna put it on the check. And my colleague was like, why are you telling me? She told you. Anyway, it was pretty funny. So, this is why self-advocacy is so important. You all, we have to change the perspectives of society. And I have to tell you, it can be exhausting. So, Ashley, should we move on?
Yes. Okay. So this is the empowerment wheel, and it contains skills and tools that help empower people with disabilities in their daily life. These skills and tools can help build power within and power with dynamics. And I'll send this to Doug so he can send it out to everyone, so that way you can use this in your own work. And these are things that they take time. It's not something, self-advocacy is not something that happens overnight. So this is something that you can use over time in your work. Julie, do you have anything about the empowerment wheel?
No, why don't you just read the outside words, will you?
Okay, yeah. So we have self-respect, boundaries, confidence, responsibility, get help, resilience, participation, self-advocacy, and leadership.
Do you want to read what's in the chat, Ashley?
Yeah, sure. So it says, I'm a smart aleck, and I would tell the waiter I don't have any money and see if we can score a free meal since they don't see the disabled person. Shrug, LOL.
Okay, next.
Okay, so this is an ongoing process and continuum. People will be at different places and need supported in different ways, and that can change from day to day or even situation to situation. The main priority is empowering the person that you're supporting. And here's a quote that says, "We are fighting for everyone's right to speak for themselves. We all have a voice, no matter how we express it, and we are all going to be heard." And Julia Bascom, the executive director of ASON, said that. Julie, do you have anything to add there?
What do I always say, Ashley?
So much.
Once you meet one person with a disability, you met one person with a disability. We all want to do different things, you know? Not everybody wants to be on the national level. Not everybody wants to, just because you have a disability, you get to choose the life you want, you know? So, okay, Ashley.
Okay, so power and control dynamics can cause imbalances which play out in relationships. So we're going to look at the rights and responsibilities of healthy relationships. So these are relationship rights. And I'm going to read them to you. I have rights in every relationship. I have the right to be respected. I have the right to be treated and spoken to like an adult. I have the right to be treated in a caring way. I have the right to be treated as a valuable person. Someone who cares for me does not hurt my feelings or hurt my body on purpose. They make me feel good, not bad. And so all of these rights are a part of a healthy relationship. And now we'll talk about responsibilities, relationship responsibilities. I have responsibilities in every relationship. I have the responsibility to be respectful. I have the responsibility to treat and speak to people like an adult. I have the responsibility to treat people in a caring way. I have the responsibility to treat people as valuable. I have the responsibility to care about not hurting people, either their feelings or their body. Respect, give it, and get it. And so these responsibilities are part of a healthy relationship. And there is one thing that I want to mention about this. So relationships are a two-way street. But even when there's a lack of respect or there's another element on your end, that is professionalism. Professionalism is the bare minimum of what needs to happen in a relationship with someone that you're supporting. And then respect and empowerment and all of those other components kind of build off of that base of professionalism. Okay, and then we have this discussion. Should we skip this one?
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to end with this quote from Dave Hingsberger from his book, Power Tools. It says, power changes those who have it and power changes those without it.
That is so true. I love that quote.
Yes. And that is the end. I do believe Doug has some last minute housekeeping stuff to talk about.
Yes. Hang on. I'm going to put an evaluation. Wait a minute. I can't hear myself. I've got an evaluation that I'm going to put in the chat for everyone. I would like you to fill out. You don't have to fill it out right now, but as soon as you can, it's an online form. And then I'm going to post a poll just so we can kind of see where everyone's from and where you are. So I'm going to launch this poll now. So if you can tell us, what state do you live in? Arkansas, because I know we've got many people from Julie's state of Arkansas. West Virginia, we might have some people. We're right on the border of Ohio and West Virginia, so there may be people in Ohio. The second question is, what category does your organization fall into or most closely related to? Are you a non-governmental disability organization? Are you an educator, faith-based organization, health professional, law enforcement, legal services, mental health professional, a victim advocate, non-governmental, victim assistant, which is governmental, victim witness coordination? Are you a self-advocate? So if you could please fill out our informal poll, and then when we're finished, which we are pretty much finished now, click on the jot form, and then when you click submit, it will send that to us so we can find out. We try and keep some demographic information and some other, just to see how you like this training, and if we should invite Julie back to do even more, which again, there's 2 more sessions coming up the next 2 Thursdays.